Are you an overwhelmed SaaS founder ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where business and IT collaboration stops wasting millions the moment everyone agrees it's an easy fix is not a technical requirement. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Your growth is way more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. What if the biggest reason your initiatives stall has nothing to do with tech and everything to do with the humans around it? Companies love buying new tools, rolling out new systems, and announcing shiny upgrades, but somehow the same friction keeps showing up, just with a better user interface. In this episode, we unpack a concept that most leaders don't invest in nearly enough: human infrastructure. The invisible framework of trust, clarity, and collaboration that determines whether projects actually work or quietly fall apart. You'll hear why so many technology problems are really people problems in disguise, and why software can't fix misalignment, confusion, or teams that weren't brought along for the change. We'll dig into how shared mental models create speed, how psychological safety turns silence into truth, and why people development shouldn't be a once a year workshop. It should be treated like an operating expense, the same way you'd never stop paying for your systems to stay reliable. And yes, we'll also get into how AI fits into this future, not as a replacement, but as a coworker that raises the bar on what humans need to do best. If you're scaling, transforming, or simply tired of watching good initiatives die in meetings, this episode will help you build the kind of team infrastructure that makes everything else finally click. Let's do this. Our founder on Tuesday was Michael Ferranti. He brought a masterclass in feature delivery, developer tooling, and modern go to market. He unpacked why feature flags are the most underrated tools for shipping faster and safer, decoupling deployment from release, enabling gradual rollouts, and allowing instant rollback without redeploying. Pretty cool stuff. Michael also shared sharp insights on developer marketing, the realities of PLG, and why AI is reshaping discovery across channels like LinkedIn, Reddit, and documentation. And our expert guest last week, one of my favorite all-time episodes, and my expert guest last week, one of my favorite all-time episodes was Martin Lesperance. He reminded us that engagement isn't something you hope for, it's something you practice. With humor, energy, and emotional clarity, Martin shared his 4 not so surprising secrets, the same ones you can find right here in his book, Inspire. Live your why, be present, practice gratitude, and have fun. From remote work to leadership responsibility, he gave a roadmap for helping teams show up with purpose, even when the work is hard. If you missed either of those episodes, go back and give them a listen. My guest today is Barbara Wittmann. She has spent the last 25 years closing one of the most expensive gaps inside organizations. Can you guess what it is? Broken collaboration. How about that? Barbara's work is rooted in a simple truth most teams learn the hard way. Technology rarely fails because of the tools. It fails because the people aren't aligned to use them. Barbara's perspective is bold, to say the least, and timely in the AI era. Software doesn't just need smarter features, it needs a smarter human OS. One time trainings don't cut it anymore. Wisdom is survival, and the human operating system deserves a permanent place in every IT budget as an evolving mindset and relationship upgrade that grows as fast as the code does. Welcome someone who helps companies upgrade the part of the system that software can't fix. Barbara Wittmann. Hey, Barbara, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Well, thanks for having me.
You've had a fascinating career from mountain bikes and logistics to SAP and quantum shifts in leadership. And what drew you from the physical grid of racing to the digital landscape of transformation?
I saw one of my employers shift to an ERP system, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. If you have your processes handled, all the things that you can do all of a sudden. And that lured me to the dark side of IT, as my colleagues in bikes were saying at that point. And I was initially thinking, well, maybe I get into learning some programming or something. And then I went to a jobs fair and I ran into a recruiter from SAP. And they're like, well, we're always looking for consultants that have experience in the field. So I jumped right in and I went through the consulting training at SAP, and the rest is history a little bit.
That's great. Yeah, very, very powerful system, and it's been around a long, long time and continues to reinvent itself for sure. And
Yeah, it's a really amazing company, and it was great to have my IT start there and to really learn the ropes. And I ended up working in the top innovation team founded by Hasso Plattner, so I have a couple of IT patents in my name. So I saw all sorts of facets, and then I decided to go out on my own because after a while the technology got a little bit boring, I have to say, because I'm not native in the technology field, and I was more fascinated by the people that actually make projects work and make technology work. Because what I saw happening is that usually it's a people issue when technology is not working. So for about 25 years, I have dipped my foot more into the people angle and systemic dynamics more on an organizational level. And I have gained a reputation of stepping in when projects are horribly wrong or have been declared dead. So, yeah, and from that learning, I basically compiled into a best practice toolbox, and I now use in the Digital Wisdom Collective because I'm a firm believer that we need to empower organizations and people so they can really fix their own stuff or even avoid making mistakes.
that's great. And I think that's a fascinating statement. Technology problems are almost always people problems.
They
Explain that
are.
a little bit more. Let's unpack that. What does that mean?
Yeah, it means that we oftentimes just click on a button of subscribe or buy here or sign on a dotted line and say, whoa, we're going to have that amazing new system and it's going to fix all of our problems. But no one really brought the people along and was asking really where the problem is. And also in the setup of every project, we oftentimes just look at milestones and timelines and hitting the budgets and everything, but we don't really account for how people need to adopt to a new way of working. So it usually how projects fail really is that the people using it in the future are not being asked, or there's no space for them to address their concerns or opinions. And also it's simple misalignment. If your company is not really talking to each other as it is, software is not going to fix the issue.
Yeah, that's right. Well, on that same note, let's talk about a concept you pioneered. It's human infrastructure. What is that, and why do you believe it's just as important as upgrading servers or platforms?
So everyone prides themselves of having an amazing technology infrastructure. And in order to make that work, we really need to build something on top or adjacent to it that I call the human infrastructure. And it is simply empowering the people that are actually executing initiatives and making strategy come to life. And that is the middle of the organization. That is where the power lies, in my opinion. So the human infrastructure basically is a place where departments work seamlessly together, where there is no throwing the hot potato across the fence, where end-to-end processes are understood, and where you would have artifacts that help you orientate and navigate. Because what I find most times is that, yes, people don't really have a voice in the middle. That's one piece. But the other piece is there is just such an overwhelm in complexity that it's really hard to navigate where you actually are. So it's the old fashioned map for a road trip. No one gives it to us because we all function, even in IT and technology projects, on a GPS system.
That's really, really interesting. I like the GPS analogy. Is that it fits?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I may be dating myself here, but when I learned to drive a car, we still had the maps that you would unfold on the
Sure.
hood of the car. And that's how we would orient. Oh, we're here and this is where we want to go. Okay. And then we all have a picture in our head and we know what to expect. That's what I call the shared mental model. Do we really all understand the same thing? So when I work with clients, I usually come in and out of their 2000 documented processes, which is not uncommon, by the way. I create a high level map that's pretty much static, that really shows you this is the systems you have, this is the data elements you have, this is the high level functions. And what happens then, it becomes much more interactive because people can literally point at it and say, oh, look here, if we change that, we gotta watch for this and this and this. And then everyone is aligned.
And that's so important because you can't get somewhere unless you know where you are, and then
Yeah.
figure out the map to get from here to there. And if everybody thinks that we're somewhere else, or doesn't know what the terrain looks like, then it makes it really, really difficult to work together and get to the common destination.
Exactly. And the only visual that we usually provide in projects is a milestone map.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we write down a bunch of Jira tickets or requirements or something. And if you have not understood what this whole thing is about, you will be lost. And most people are scared to really ask and say, well, hey, can somebody explain where we stand now?
Right.
Because it's almost like the imposter syndrome. It's like, well, am I the only one that doesn't get it? So, and yeah, so it's essentially very, very simple things, and it's a wayfinding system, really. Where do I have to have the way markers that everyone can see where we're going?
And you propose that people development shouldn't be an HR initiative, but should be something that's functional, something that's budgeted in the same way as anything like IT infrastructure, like software. It's actually a line
Exactly.
item in the budget. What's the
Yeah.
resistance you've seen to that, and how do you help leaders shift their mindset so that the people development is at the forefront?
Oh, there is a lot of resistance because if you think that middle management is or the middle of the organization is in silos, boy, if you go higher in the ranks, there are silos too, and it's basically a territory thing. And HR is very proud, as they should be, and IT is very proud, but we kind of have to jump that hurdle and really huddle together and say, how do we make this work? And in order to make everything in one place, I put out the bold statement of saying, hey, why don't you make this an OPEX line in your IT budget? And you upskill the people throughout the year, because truthfully, we are upgrading servers all along. It is a line item where we understand we have to keep up and we have to keep pace. And with people upgrades, we look at it in a very old fashioned way. It's a one and done kind of thing. And that's not how it works anymore. AI models are evolving at the speed of light, and we're not upgrading our humans. What can go
Yeah.
wrong? It's like, yeah,
I think that's really interesting. I mean, putting it under IT. I mean, why IT
Mhm.
specifically? And what happens when they don't own the people upgrade process and maybe somebody else does or no
Yeah.
one does?
And maybe we can differentiate a little bit here, because that people upgrade process is specifically for the people executing and really hands-on dealing with the software initiatives and making things work. So
Gotcha.
that appeases the HR people a little bit, because you're not taking the entire pie away. In fact, you are making the pie bigger, so essentially everyone gets a slice. So if you are implementing a new, let's say, ERP software, because that's like a huge piece, you send people to learn about this new software, and that's like the training track. But we don't have anything else planned that would help us to really upskill ourselves and be better listeners, to really see how we are defining the problems before we jump into solutions and all these fun things.
Yeah.
That usually is an HR thing. But if you decouple these things, it's not really moving in the right direction. So that's why I'm saying your execution layer. And that's exactly where You cannot delegate complexity anymore because they need to deal with it, inevitably. That's where you need to get the training budget really into the hands of IT and make it an ongoing expense and an ongoing upgrade process. The other piece that I find, if we are upgrading software, we are so anal about testing this upgrade before we set it productive.
Right.
Well, if you get a people training, you are expected to instantly just apply that thing. It's
Right.
like, well, we gave you a communication training. How come you still have an issue, right? So where do we have the test grounds for the people? And that's what we offer with the Digital Wisdom Collective, because we actually offer a safe container where cross-industry mid-level leaders can come, they can learn, they can upskill their leadership and collaboration skills, and then they can practice and they can ask all the stupid things that they cannot ask in their own echo chamber. Because honestly, if you're sitting in an in-house training, do you want to be the person that raises the hand and says, well, I don't know if I can apply that?
That makes a lot of sense. What types of transformations do you see when the middle layers in an organization are empowered like that? I mean, you have an example of the ripple effect?
Yeah, it's quite profound, because what usually happens is that people in the middle, they are literally the sandwich people. They always feel the pressure from all sides. So they usually go into victim mode and say, well, my manager didn't make that decision and I can't do anything about it, or I can't change anything about the company strategy. And they kind of, they just are with their situation. And if things get worse, they slip more into the pity party or go elsewhere. So if you show them a way out, and that is basically changing their mindset from I can't change anything to really looking for opportunities of where can I create a space, that's what really changes the equation for them. So the biggest for me aha effect was a test manager in an organization, and she was like, well, I'm always at the shorter end of the stick. Test cycles are squeezed when IT is running late and so on.
Right.
So after going through our mindset program, she turned the equation around and she actually made a case how testing can become a strategic asset in the entire development process. And she made a case that she needs more bodies in her department, and she got it pushed through.
Makes such a big difference in being
Yeah.
able to approach it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it really is about how do you empower people to become co-creators in a way. And granted, that also means that the organization has a culture where you can really address these things with either your managers, or the ideal situation is always you have a sponsor and top management that say, yeah, let's train up these guys, because this is my most honest feedback mechanism I can get for my strategy. Because they will be, if you give them a seat at the table, if you give them a voice, they will tell you if something is possible or not possible, because they are dealing with that stuff every day, and they
Right.
have a pretty blunt view of we either the timeline is unrealistic or we don't have the resources or something. So you can save yourself a lot of headache. And you also need to, of course, accept that there may be some uncomfortable truths in that.
I know that sometimes it can be that they say, well, the timeline's not realistic. And then there's pushback to that of either they don't want to work, or
Yeah.
that, well, it doesn't matter because we already committed to that. It doesn't matter if it's realistic. We still have to
Right.
deliver.
Right. And what I see oftentimes is that they are just hiring a consulting partner, and it's like, well, that they are going to do it. And you would have the capacity in-house, but when somebody in-house says something, it's not valued the same. So
True.
most consultants are basically picking the brains of the in-house people, and they package it in happy PowerPoints, and that's it. So by empowering your own middle layer, you can save yourself a lot of consulting spend. And on average, we see about 20% saved, which adds up to be a pretty penny if you are a larger
Yes.
company.
Wow, that's big.
Mhm.
One of your standout tools is the four pillar model. Can you walk
Yeah.
us through that and how it helps teams prevent costly detours and get traction faster?
Right. So we are pushing for a circular model, and we believe that a circular thinking is what will keep us out of trouble. Because what we are doing now is we think linear. Project is starting, project is ending, and in between you just have to hustle. We have told ourselves for many years that agile is a circular model and that's going to make us happy. But truthfully, agile also needs a cultural foundation and a lot of things in place that it can actually work well. So, what we are teaching with our 4 pillar model is a very simple thing that you pause for a minute and you understand the problem. That's what usually is jumped over,
Mm,
right? You make sure you listen to everyone and you synthesize and basically break down. So, understanding the problem, you are slimming it down, condensing it, and then you go into a solution. And from there, you get people excited about the solution. So, in our world, because we're always on the go, go, go mode, we hardly ever take time to really understand the problem.
right.
And that's why you have costly detours. And it really is a practice muscle. And that's what we ingrain into all of the live sessions we hold, into all of the mindset building material, all the best practice roundtables. It is something that is repeated, 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 and we practice using it. And that's something you can instantly take back into your organization and start practicing. We also use the same 4 pillar model when we run workshops when it comes to AI. We call the workshop Mindset Before Machines. It's basically debunking everything we think we know about AI and bringing all the assumptions to the table. So it is a very universal model, and it really is about ingraining it into your muscle memory and be able to use it. And once you use it and people see value in it, it ripples out, and others are like, well, I'm going to try that too. So essentially, our model is about empowering a certain number of people in the organization, and then it would basically take its own dynamic and it would replicate.
Oh, I like that. That's a really good way to look at it. You also use what you call a dual ecosystem for training. What does that mean, and why is that essential for behavior change to really
Mm.
stick?
Right. So we see every organization as an ecosystem. And this may be a rather strange way of looking at it, but it implies that everything is connected and everything informs each other, which already happens. And we may not want to admit to it, but we do have an ecosystem. And it's just
Sure.
about understanding and really seeing where the connections are. So, one goal for us is to really activate and kickstart that ecosystem. And it's merely about making the invisible visible and say, okay, so here is what you have, and here is how you can foster it going forward. So, that is one piece. And a big angle for us to do that is we say to get a kick started, you got to send us at least 4 of the people that are going to be stewards going forward. And that's usually the very quiet ones in the middle of the organization that don't say much, but everyone gravitates to when there's a problem to solve. And those are usually overlooked in every training effort and in every high potential initiative and whatnot. But they are really the carrier of the wisdom already. So you take 4 of the people in the middle, and then we put them into our own ecosystem, the Digital Wisdom Collective, and they have a space to really get trained up to learn from others because we run cross industry and cross hierarchy cohorts. And that is really profound for a lot of people because there is something in it where you're like, well, I'm not alone having that issue. And there is not anything about sharing gory secrets of the company or something. We are talking very basic challenges that everyone can relate to. And so they have a training space, they have an ecosystem they can get trained up in, and they can go back and really spark their own ecosystem in their organization. And, if you are up against an older culture or something that is just has grown over time, it's hard to keep the momentum going.
Yes.
You're walking out of a training, and our training is ongoing. We believe in constant upgrading. And it's not very time intensive for people. You come back into your environment and you may get discouraged if the first blowback comes. That's why we keep the people we have trained up in our ecosystem, and they can keep learning from others, and it's basically a self-enforcing mechanism. So we don't want to leave them high and dry, and also for organizations it's unrealistic that everyone is going to change at the same time. So
True.
you got to give them a pathway in, and then basically once the first 4 were trained, they can appoint the next ones because they see who else would really be a good person to adopt a new mindset and to become their ally, essentially. And we have a threshold defined of about 25% of your middle layer in the organization. Once they are adopting a new mindset, that's when you see a behavioral shift that ripples throughout the organization. But even with a smaller number of people, you can already benefit highly in running initiatives and in departments.
I like that. I love them being able to pick who goes next, and they're kind of building their team, building their allies. Very cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, basically, you have to leave them in their own hands. And obviously, when you go through a bigger shift like that, we always want to have a C-level sponsor in it
Yeah.
because you certainly cannot pull it alone. Yeah.
And you've woven in inspiration from indigenous cultures into your framework for organizational change. How did that come about? And what can modern SaaS leaders learn from some ancient wisdom?
Man, you really did your homework. I did. And so when I started my first company in Germany, I was reading all management books I could find, and I was really bored by everything that I was reading because it was all about bigger, better, higher, faster. And I had an issue as a small consultancy in simply how do I keep my people? Because essentially I can only pay so much. So how do I create a place of work that actually is fun for everyone to be at? And how can I be different? And my big question was, how do I make it feel like a village
I like
or
it.
a tribe? And I was like, well, maybe I don't have to read what's around now. Maybe I have to go back in time a little bit and kind of see how these dynamics worked back then. And how do I also have to advance me as a leader, as the chief in a different aspect, yeah, I mean, every C-level holds the title of chief, but I don't think anyone is ever making the connection to that. So, yeah, I mean, how do we actually do this in a graceful way? And I was digging deeper and deeper into whatever I could find. And I started back then, still living in Germany, I started traveling to Colorado and actually learning and sitting with people who know it, and spent a lot of time over here, sat with the Navajo medicine woman and just picking up on what were their principles. And I was so intrigued because it's so simple and so profound. And I really think we can learn so much from it, even in today's world. And this simple realization that everything is connected and that's how an ecosystem works. I mean, that's essentially nature in a nutshell. So if we want to learn about innovation, if we want to learn about how to grow sustainably, this is the place to go and to watch. The other piece is the simple realization that everything works in cycles. We all believe that it's always a go, 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 but hey, nature is not on all the time. So it is very simple principles that we have incorporated that we just need to get back to. And so I learned a ton, and honestly, through doing that, I really advanced my startup or my consultancy. And I built something that grew maybe in a different way than people had anticipated, but I had very loyal employees, and we had a bond that was hard to find in the industry, because it usually is whoever pays you a little bit more or whoever gives you the better car. That's where people run to. So yeah, wrote a book about it on how I built my company, Meetings and Moccasins, And that was really the start of what I'm doing now.
What if a leadership book and a Netflix drama had a baby? That is The Captain's Keys, Storms, Emotional Wreckage, and a surprisingly practical leadership system that one CEO called the owner's manual and never got for 20 years of leadership. Here is the brutal truth. You're probably drowning in LinkedIn connections while starving for real relationships. I hear it all the time. Most leaders are exhausted from playing the lone hero, and it's killing both your results and your sanity. The Captain's Keys reveals a new leadership framework, the stability matrix, four specific relationships that prevent burnout while multiplying your impact. And this isn't just theory. It's a system that I've used to scale companies and taught over 1,000 executive leaders. So grab your copy today at thecaptainskeys.com, Amazon, or choose your own adventure, print, ebook, or audio. Stop drowning alone and build your stability matrix. That's great. As part of that, I mean, helping people spot their blind spots and also identify their superpowers. So kind of both of those together. What does that process look like? And how do you help someone shift from being triggered maybe to become
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing I realized early on being a business owner is my business can only grow as much as I allow myself to grow. So I am the biggest bottleneck of me. If I cannot imagine things to happen, it's not going to happen. And that's sort of the same principle that I now apply into our mindset work that we teach people. So it really is about transforming yourself first before you can transform an organization or a project. But of course, touching ourselves is what we are usually trying to avoid most. So, but at some point it's inevitable. And essentially, our mindset work teaches you to become a better facilitator because you are simply not poked as much. You're not triggered as much, and you can be a better listener and you can be more of the neutral force in there. So we start with personal values because we believe that is something super powerful that we don't pay enough attention to. And it really shows us what holds us when things get rocky. And from there, we dig into what are limiting beliefs that we may be holding of ourselves. For example, I was holding a limiting belief for the longest time in my career that I am not bred and grown in the IT world. I
yeah,
came from sporting goods. What do I know? Right? It was holding me up a great deal for a long time. So feeling like an imposter is what the biggest limiting belief I find. It's people in business that are highly talented and that really know how things are working together, but they're like, what do I have to say for IT? And why would anyone listen to me?
right.
So there's a big segment of just looking at that and also what are the thoughts and habits that are resulting of that. And we give very simple frameworks on how you can be more observative of yourself and also start debunking. We teach little mindful breather exercises when the colleague in the meeting pokes you again and you're ready to go through the roof. And it's like, well, you may want to take a breath and let's see what happens inside. And then let's respond and let's not react because that's when stupid stuff happens.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, it really is. And it's not a one and done. It's an ongoing practice, right? Once you open that can of worms, those limiting beliefs, they come in a school bus. It's it's kind of interesting. And it becomes almost like a scavenger hunt. It's like, whoa, where's that coming from? I've never met you. Yeah, and we also spend a little bit of time to really help people figure out what their superpower is. Look back at their career and really connect the dots of successes and also what would be considered failures. But there may be a common thread that they have always been the peacemaker or the communicator, and that really is what they are excelling at and what they are good at. So, yeah.
What is one way that we can help identify our limiting beliefs and start moving those out, start dealing with them and the entire school bus, but we got to start somewhere.
Scuba. Yeah, and maybe that was a little bit discouraging. Sorry.
It's true though.
Yeah, it is really getting curious about yourself. And if you are If an opportunity is presented to you, or if you're asked to step into something and you have an instant reaction of, oh, no, 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 that would be an indicator that there may be something that is of interest. And honestly, if I look back at my career being an employee, I turned down a lot of opportunities because of that. Because my instant reaction was, I can't do that. I've never
Right.
done that before. So that is, essentially a limiting belief, and also a misaligned self-image of how I see me and how other people see me. So yeah, I mean, get curious about that. If your instant reaction is no, just pause for a minute and say, well, what is it really? Am I just intimidated or scared? Maybe it's something that people around me kept telling me, well, you're not creative.
Yeah.
We all know such things, right? I'm
Right.
I'm still haunted by my third grade teacher saying, well, no, she can't be the class speaker because she's so quiet. And that stuck with me. I'm the quiet one. Oh no, I can't do presentations. Oh, I can't speak on stage.
Yeah. That's really good
Yeah.
in confronting those. A lot of times the greatest growth is on the other side of those things that we avoid or push back on or that
Mhm.
scare us a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, then the art is how do you turn it around? How do you change the the wiring, right? And we give a lot of guidance in our trainings there, but it really is an ongoing practice because it's been ingrained in us for so long. So it really is a little bit of discipline attached to it, that we constantly keep telling ourselves that, hey, it's okay. The you don't have to protect me anymore. I'm okay going on stage now. I'm a big girl now.
That's good. Well, building human infrastructure, I think, is probably more critical now with AI accelerating everything,
Mhm.
particularly in technology. So, how do you see people transforming, or how do you see the people-based transformation staying competitive
Mhm.
when AI is making tech so increasingly complex and moving so fast?
Mhm. So first of all, we need to see AI not as a competitor, but as a potential coworker that's being added. To me, that is the biggest misconception, that we instantly go into, oh my God, that's going to take my job away, limiting
Right.
belief, right? So what can AI do and what can it not do? What makes me uniquely human? And I think that's where the juice lies, because we need to start training our human aspects more than ever. And what is human and what will be still a task to be tackled is, how do I make sense of complexity? Because AI can only spit out so much. But the spidey senses that would tell you, oh, something's going on in that department. What
Right.
happened here? That really is our superpower that we now need to foster. That emotional intelligence piece, and really, how do we connect with people? That is something that we now need to train. We don't need to know more about tech because we already know so much. But now we need to start and ask, well, how do I become a better prompt engineer, if you will? And the irony is that we are really bad at communicating anyhow. So now we make a job description out of it. Well, this is great. So how do I ask better questions? How do I become a better listener? So then with that information, I can feed my AI buddy, and I can really make that tool a co-creator. I I look at AI as something that can immensely empower us, but we have to step it up as humans. So if I'm intimidated by it, if I am living in my victim mode, it's not going to go really hot. And also, if I am feeding an AI tool with the limits I have in my head, it's also not going so hot. So if I train a tool with my limiting beliefs, well, that's going to go really, really well. So yeah, we gotta learn how to be more human again, how to listen and how to really connect the dots.
I like that. Let's say a founder's listening and scaling fast and it feels like people are maybe burning out a little bit. Collaboration is fraying, silos are forming. What's the first step they should take this week in just to begin building their human infrastructure?
So a big piece for human infrastructure for it to hold is trust. And that means psychological safety. And if you create as a founder a space where people can really show up and voice their concerns or say what is cooking for them, that is immense. But you as a founder have to be ready for it. You have to step in and say, hey, I want to hear the truth. And nothing happens. I just want to put my finger on the pulse here. So that is one piece. And maybe you or your people are not quite ready for it because you know, there's a lot of pressure going on and things are rough out there. So this may be a far-fetched stretch. But the other piece that is a very good first step is to really remember what your mission is in the company. And you may have defined some core values that you started out with, but in the whole hubbub of growing and trying and figure out how this is all going to scale, you may have lost it. So now is the time to really pull open that drawer and pull it out again and really make it front and center and put it on every first slide you have in every update meeting. Make it accessible to people and really make it become a livable artifact.
So good. Well, where can people learn more about you online?
You guys can visit my website, digitalwisdom.co, or you can find me on LinkedIn. And I recently started the Digital Wisdom Collective Substack, where I pour in Sunday summaries, where I ponder over wisdom and technology.
Outstanding. We'll make sure and link all of that in the show notes. And everybody should check out the Substack. It's really, really good.
Great.
So, Barbara, it's been an absolute pleasure. Super valuable today. Thanks for being on SaaS.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks again, Barbara, for coming on the show and sharing your insights and resources. You can learn more about Barbara and her company, Digital Wisdom, at digitalwisdom.co. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to check us out on YouTube as well. Our channel is at Champion Leadership. Thought leaders share. Share this episode with the operator who can smell a bad idea from 3 roadmaps away. Everyone who shares this week gets a BS detection dashboard. It flashes red whenever someone says, oh, it'll scale later, or let's just ship it and see. What does it take to build products that last across decades, industries, and changing tech cycles? Next up, Tom Rossi, technical co-founder of Higher Pixels, joins us to share lessons from building Buzzsprout, the majestic monolith of podcasting, and creating products across healthcare, nonprofits, and time tracking with a discipline of long-term craftsmanship. Very cool conversation. And then 1 week from today, what if your brand didn't need to make more noise, but needed a deeper story? Coming up, Mark Rust, founder of Consequently Creative, joins us to explore identity, positioning, and transformative storytelling that cuts through the market with clarity and emotional resonance. From private equity portfolios to purpose-driven startups, Mark helps teams find the narrative that actually sticks. I'll see you next time, and as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.